The notification sound from David's phone cut through the peaceful silence of our beachfront hotel room in Santorini. We'd been planning this trip for 8 months, our 10-year anniversary celebration. David was in the shower, humming off-key. His phone, charging beside me, lit up again. "Thinking of you. Can't wait until you're back." The message was from A in his contacts. My stomach dropped. In 10 years of marriage, I'd never seen this contact before. My hands shook as I picked up his phone. No passcode. The message thread with A stretched back 3 months. My anniversary vacation crumbled as I scrolled through a digital love affair. "Can't stop thinking about last Tuesday. When do you think you'll be ready to tell her? I love you too." I took screenshots. Every message, every photo, every planning conversation about their future together. Tuesday meetings that ran late, weekend conferences, business trips that left him energized. The shower shut off and I quickly replaced his phone, arranging myself as before. "Ready for dinner, babe?" David emerged, looking like the successful architect I'd fallen in love with. "Sounds perfect," I managed. As he dressed, I made my own plans. David had accumulated over 400,000 frequent flyer miles through his business travel, miles earned while falling in love with A. Those miles should fund my own journey of discovery. Dinner was a masterclass in acting. David ordered wine, complimented my dress, and took photos against the dramatic Santorini backdrop. "To 10 more years," David said, raising his glass. "To new adventures," I replied, thinking about the screenshots in my phone. He was good at this, the attentive husband, the romantic partner. How long had he been playing this role while living a different reality? "Maybe we should take more trips like this," David said. "We've forgotten how to just be together." The irony was almost funny. Here he was advocating for couple time while planning his escape. "That sounds wonderful," I said, "though I know how busy your travel schedule gets. All those Tuesday meetings that run late." Something flickered across his face. "Well, maybe I can delegate more." "Speaking of travel," I said casually, "I was looking at your mileage account. You've really racked up the points this year." David's fork paused. "Have I? I don't really pay attention." Another lie. David was obsessive about points and miles. "Over 400,000 miles. That's enough for amazing trips." "Maybe we should use some for a winter getaway." I smiled genuinely. "That's a great idea. I might look into some options." Back in our room, David fell asleep quickly. I lay beside him, listening to his breathing while planning my next moves. His laptop was in the sitting area, travel accounts saved with automatic logins. I spent 2 hours researching destinations, calculating the emotional value of different revenge scenarios. By 3 a.m., I had booked myself a 3-week solo journey through Japan, first-class flights, luxury hotels. The total cost? 380,000 points. Departure, the day after we returned. David's phone had revealed he planned to have the conversation with me the following weekend. He was going to make our anniversary trip the last good memory before destroying our marriage. Instead, he'd just funded my liberation. The next 3 days in Santorini passed like a fever dream. I played my part perfectly, the loving wife enjoying her anniversary vacation, blissfully unaware that her marriage was already over. "You seem different," David said on our third morning. "More relaxed, happier." "It's the vacation," I replied, which wasn't entirely untrue. There was something liberating about knowing the truth, about having a plan. He reached across and took my hand. "I love you, Sarah. I hope you know that." The words felt like lines from a script. I squeezed his hand and smiled. "I love you too." That afternoon, while David napped, I called my sister from the hotel spa. "Rachel, I need to ask you something, and I need you to not ask questions right now." That's ominous. What's wrong? Can I stay with you for a few weeks when I get back from Greece, starting Sunday? There was a pause. Rachel was a divorce attorney with keen instincts about marriages in crisis. Of course. But, Sarah, I'll explain everything when I see you. After hanging up, I booked a massage session with Elena, a serene therapist who spoke beautiful, accented English. You carry much tension in your shoulders, but something has shifted. That evening, David suggested we take the sunset cruise we'd booked. The catamaran was filled with other couples as we sailed around the volcanic islands. This has been perfect, he said, as we watched the sun melt into the Aegean. It has been perfect, I agreed, and meant it, not because our marriage was saved, but because I finally had clarity. Maybe we should make this an annual tradition, he continued. That sounds lovely, I said. Later that night, I finalized my Japanese adventure. 3 weeks of solo travel through Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka. Cooking classes, tea ceremonies, temple visits, bullet train journeys. David had always dismissed my interest in Japanese culture as impractical, but his miles were about to make my impractical dreams very practical indeed. The flight back to Boston was turbulent. David dozed beside me while I stared out at storm clouds and mentally rehearsed the conversation I knew was coming. Back to reality, David said as we waited for luggage at Logan Airport. Not quite yet, I said mysteriously. The ride home felt surreal. Everything looked the same. Our neighborhood, the coffee shop, the dry cleaner. But I was seeing it all through different eyes. Our house looked like a stage set for a life I was about to exit. I'll get the bags, David said. You look exhausted. Inside, our house smelled like vanilla candles. Everything exactly as we'd left it. I'm going to shower, David announced. Want to order Thai food? Actually, I said, pulling out my phone, I have something to tell you. David paused, clearly picking up on something in my tone. What's that? I'm leaving for Japan tomorrow morning, for 3 weeks. The silence stretched between us. David's expression cycled through confusion, surprise, and panic. Japan? What are you talking about? We just got back from vacation. I booked the trip yesterday. With what money? We agreed no more major trips this year. I smiled, enjoying this moment. With your miles, actually. 380,000 of them. David's face went white. My miles? Sarah, you can't just... Without what? Without asking permission? I let the question hang. The way you didn't ask permission before planning your exit strategy with A? The color drained completely from his face. Sarah, I don't know what you think you saw. I saw everything, David. 3 months of messages, photos, plans. I pulled out my phone and started reading. Can't wait until you're back. This week feels like forever. That was during our anniversary trip. David sank into a bar stool. Sarah, please, let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You fell in love with someone else. You've been planning to leave me. You were waiting until after our anniversary trip to have the conversation. It's not like that, he said weakly. The only thing I'm curious about is whether you were planning to tell me before or after you'd moved the important assets. How long have you known? Since Tuesday night in Santorini. I've spent 3 days watching you play the loving husband while knowing you were planning to discard me. I wasn't planning to discard you. How to what? Break up with me gently? I interrupted. There's no good way to end a 10-year marriage, David. I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen. And now I'm going to Japan, and you're going to figure out how to tell your girlfriend that your wife found out. Sarah, please, can we just talk about this? I studied his face, looking for any sign that he actually wanted to save our marriage rather than just control how it ended. "There's nothing to work through," I said gently. "You made your choice. I'm just making mine." My flight to Tokyo departed at 1:15 p.m. the next day, giving me 18 hours to pack and have one final conversation with David. David had spent the night in the guest room. When I woke up, he was already gone, probably at A's place, though he'd left a note saying he was giving me space to think. My sister Rachel arrived at 10 a.m. with coffee and a grim expression. "So," she said, "how bad is it?" I showed her the screenshots and explained the timeline. "Do you want to take him for everything he's worth?" she asked. "I want to disappear for 3 weeks and figure out what I actually want," I said. "Fair enough, but document everything and don't make major decisions while emotional." "Flying to Japan with his miles isn't a major decision?" Rachel laughed. "That's not a decision, that's poetry." At noon, David returned carrying pastries from the French bakery downtown. "Can we talk before you leave?" he asked. Rachel left, and David and I sat in our living room, surrounded by a decade of shared possessions that would need dividing. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know that's not enough." "How it happened, or that it happened?" He was quiet. "Both? Neither? I'm confused about everything." "You're confused about getting caught. You weren't confused when making plans with her." "Her name is Alice," he said quietly. "I don't need to know her name. She's not. This isn't casual. I didn't set out to have an affair." "How long?" I asked. "Since March. We met at the sustainability conference." 5 months. Well, I'd been planning our anniversary and thinking about kids. David had been falling in love with someone else. "Are you in love with her?" The question surprised him. "Yes," he said simply. The word hung between us like a door slamming shut. "Then there's nothing to work through," I said. "You love someone else. I deserve to be with someone who loves me." "I did love you. I do love you, just not the way you love her." He nodded miserably. "Then this is actually the best thing that could have happened. We could have gone on for years with you contending." "Did it feel wrong to you too?" I considered honestly. Not wrong, but not right either. Like we were going through the motions. "So what happens now?" "Now I go to Japan. You figure out your life with Alice. When I get back, we'll untangle 10 years as gracefully as possible." He walked me to the door, carried my suitcase to the Uber. For a moment, we stood in our driveway looking at each other across the wreckage. "I hope Japan is everything you want it to be," he said. "I hope Alice makes you happy," I replied, and meant it. The last thing I saw was David standing in front of our house, looking lost and relieved and heartbroken all at once. I felt exactly the same way. Tokyo hit me like a sensory explosion. The crush of humanity in Shibuya Station, neon signs creating artificial daylight at midnight, the impossible politeness despite the chaos. I stood in the world's busiest crosswalk, letting waves of people flow around me, and felt more present than I had in months. My hotel in Shinjuku was minimalist luxury. Clean lines, hidden storage, views of the city stretching to the horizon. After the emotional turbulence, the serene simplicity felt like meditation. I called Rachel from my room, looking out at Tokyo's endless lights. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "Surprisingly well. It's amazing how much clarity you can gain at 30,000 feet." "Any word from David?" "A few texts. Apologetic, confused, asking if we can talk when I get back. I've been ignoring them." That first week was pure immersion therapy. I took a cooking class in Sujiki and learned to make perfect sushi rice. I spent a day in the Ghibli Museum rediscovering animated storytelling. I got lost in Harajuku and found a tiny ramen shop where the master chef spoke no English, but understood exactly what I needed. Every day I walked until my feet ached, exploring neighborhoods that felt like different cities. Traditional Tokyo in Asakusa with ancient temples, ultra-modern Tokyo in Roppongi with glass towers, quirky Tokyo in Shibuya where teenagers dressed like anime characters. I started keeping a journal, something I hadn't done since college. Day 5. Tried to eat at a restaurant where no one spoke English. Ended up having the most incredible meal through pure pointing and smiling. David would have been mortified by the lack of control. I loved every confusing minute. Day 8. Visited Senso-ji Temple and watched people writing prayers on wooden plaques. I almost wrote one asking for guidance about my marriage, then realized I don't need guidance. I need courage. By the second week, I'd developed a routine. Morning coffee at a tiny cafe where the owner greeted me with a bow and a knowing smile. Afternoon adventures, museums, gardens districts, evening soaks in the hotel's onsen-style bath. David's texts had tapered off, which told me everything about his commitment to saving our marriage. He was probably relieved to have space to figure out his new life with Alice. In Kyoto, I stayed in a traditional ryokan and learned tea ceremony. The ritual precision, the focus on present moment awareness, felt like the opposite of my marriage, which had become automated responses and unexamined habits. The tea ceremony teaches us that beauty can be found in impermanence. My instructor, Tanaka-san, explained, "Nothing lasts forever, but that makes each moment precious." I thought about David, about our decade together, about the life we'd built that was ending. There had been beauty in it, real love and happiness, but it had run its course. On my last night in Japan, I climbed Tokyo Skytree and looked out over the city that had been my sanctuary. I felt different, not just because of physical distance, but because I'd proven I could be alone without being lonely, could make decisions without consulting anyone else, could find joy in uncertainty. My phone buzzed with a text from David. "I hope you're well. We need to talk when you get back. I've made some decisions." I typed back, "Me too. See you Sunday." Whatever decisions he'd made, I was ready. I'd made some of my own. Boston felt smaller when I returned, like a city I'd outgrown. The familiar sights looked somehow diminished after Tokyo's sprawl and Kyoto's majesty. David was waiting in our living room, looking nervous and formal. He'd gotten a haircut, was wearing a shirt I didn't recognize. "How was Japan?" he asked, as if we were acquaintances. "Transformative," I said, settling into the chair across from him. "You said you'd made some decisions." He nodded, pulling out a folder thick with documents. "I've talked to a lawyer about how to handle the divorce fairly." "How generous of you." "Sarah, please. I know I hurt you, but I want to do this right." I studied his face. The connection we'd shared was completely gone, replaced by careful politeness of strangers negotiating business. "What are you proposing?" "The house is yours if you want it. I'll buy out your share of the business accounts. We split retirement funds 50-50. You keep your car and anything else that matters." It was fair, probably more generous than I'd get through contentious proceedings. David had clearly been thinking about this longer than just the 3 weeks I'd been gone. "And Alice?" I asked. We're moving in together, after everything is finalized." "How modern? Living in sin until the divorce papers are signed?" David flinched. "It's not like that." You've been planning this exit strategy for months. I was just the last to know. I never meant for it to happen this way. But it did. And now you want me to make it easy by accepting your settlement and disappearing gracefully. He looked confused. Don't you want it to be easy? I laughed, genuinely amused. I don't want to make it harder, David. I'm just not going to pretend this is something it's not. You had an affair, you planned to leave me. Those are the facts. So what do you want? Revenge? I want honesty. For once in 5 months, I want complete honesty. David was quiet. When he spoke again, his voice was softer, more genuine. I fell out of love with you gradually, then fell in love with Alice all at once. I should have talked to you when I started feeling distant, but I didn't know how. Then Alice happened, and suddenly there was this alternative life that seemed brighter. I was a coward about it. The admission hung between us like a bridge I could choose to cross or burn. Thank you, I said. For what? For finally telling me the truth. We spent 2 hours going through practical details: bank accounts, insurance policies, the storage unit full of wedding gifts we'd never used. It was surprisingly painless, like dividing assets of a business partnership that had run its course. There's one more thing, I said. I want to keep using Chen as my last name. David looked surprised. Why? Because Patterson Chen is who I've been for 10 years. I'm not going back to being the person I was before I married you, but I'm not erasing our history either. And the parts that didn't make you better, I'm leaving those with you. After David left, I walked through our house, my house now, and tried to imagine what it would look like once I'd made it fully mine. The house felt too big for one person, but not lonely. After 3 weeks of constant motion, the stillness was welcome. My phone rang. Rachel, checking in. How'd it go? Better than expected. He's trying to be fair about the money, and he finally admitted he'd checked out months ago. Are you okay? I considered the question seriously. I was divorced, or soon would be. I was starting over at 34, and I was facing a future I hadn't planned for. I'm okay, I said, and realized I meant it. I'm actually better than okay. I'm free. So what's next? I looked around the living room, at wedding photos I'd need to pack away, and shared possessions that would need new homes. Tomorrow, I'd start rebuilding my life. But tonight, I was going to order sushi from that place David had always said was too expensive, open the good wine we'd been saving, and plan my next adventure. I had 20,000 frequent flyer miles left in David's account, just enough for a weekend trip somewhere I'd never been. It seemed like a shame to let them go to waste. If this story shocked you, just wait for what's next. Leave a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and of course, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss a single notification.